The Global Environments Network is a network of socio-environmental change makers that work in different places in the world, improving the quality of their environments or their societies. And Global Environments Network has different types of activities where these people gets together and creates a larger network, which includes the Global Environment Summer Academies, the community exchanges, and many others. The European Community Exchange in Barcelona was the first community exchange that happened in Europe, as most of them had occurred in North America in previous years.
Seeds are magic. Seeds are incredible. They're the very thing that has given us life as human beings. So to come together with a group of incredible people from countries all across Europe, with all different languages and cultures, to discuss the future of and access of our seeds was just so inspiring.
The European Community Exchange on Seed Diversity and Access contained three main topics, which included community seed banks, participatory on-farm breeding, and open source seeds. In addition, we included also some discussions on genetically engineered seeds and new agronomic biotechnology. To choose these main topics, we convened an advisory committee that helped us decide which would be the most relevant topics to discuss with experts, and also which experts would be important or interesting to have during the event. Each of the main topics included a field visit dealing with that topic. Then we had a keynote speech also discussing major areas of that element.
And over the course of the 4.5 days of the exchange, we created fishbowl sessions, we created the World Cafes, all sorts of different interactive knowledge exchange, and a lot of meaty debate around the subject of seeds, which is a really complex issue.
There was a group of people working with local varieties, communities in banks and seed networks, but there were other kind of stakeholders. So the exchange with them, for me, has been very interesting.
It was really important to meet each other and also to explain the different activities that we are doing in different countries.
I have been very happy to hear what is happening in Malta, in Morocco, in Spain, and everywhere. Also, the excursions have been super interesting to me.
The place we went yesterday, the park UCP, where we saw the breeding projects of tomatoes and the new selection project of kale. I think it was a great place.
This is really deep into my professional work, very, very interesting.
We originally started off with the idea of a roadmap, but we felt that was a bit too prescriptive, and the group generally felt that wasn't quite right. So we decided to go with something that we called a Pathways to a Common Vision.
The idea, I think, was to have something to work on after the event. So many of these events usually get together people at some point and place, but there is no continuity of those activities. So we decided to create this Pathways document in order to collaborate in the future with the different participants of the event and make this event the seed for something bigger, which would be these pathways taking place.
And within that, people have nominated or suggested a couple of different pathways, one of them being about intergenerational learning and mentoring.
The mentoring turns out to be something that we consider to be very important. And that is that all of us are on a learning path. All of us have something to give, even if it's just our attention. And all of us have something to gain, even if it's an understanding of where other people are in other countries in terms of their understanding. No matter what topic you talk about, no matter what country, some people at more beginning stage of their understanding, some people are more advanced. And this was not a dynamic which was about the people who know talking to the people that don't know. This was a coming together of people who have various extensive knowledge and sharing that. This is the whole idea of our peer-to-peer learning that we do in GDF events and Global Environment Network events.
We also had a really interesting conversation around sovereignty and what seed sovereignty means. For certain people, that term is really laden with political discourse and a whole history of complexity. So we actually decided to leave the word sovereignty at the door, and instead we went for seed access and diversity.
And then access, of course, is also a thorny issue. I mean, what about access? We saw that a little bit yesterday. Who has access to knowledge which is generated through an EU project? Should that be open? Should we share information with everybody? Or should we have some kind of a license or a restriction that it can't be patented or that it couldn't be used for commercial purposes? Open source seeds we heard about, of course, quite a bit. So that's another pathway to diversity and access. Very much talking about access, isn't it? And then community seed banks, of course, were an element that Beate brought up, and that's been, of course, an important element our last few days. That is that, of course, they're all about access and diversity. I mean, how do you hold on to conserving traditional varieties? How do you integrate newly bred varieties? And how do you give access to a community of users?
For example, I was thinking yesterday in how to set up agreements of transfer of material for my community seed bank when we give material to users. So we don't have these agreements, and it will be very good to set up.
And then, of course, the whole idea of networking came up, because we need to continue to be able to be in touch and find these types of spaces to be able to convene, to discuss, to share ideas, and then, of course, sometimes to disagree.
Yes, I keep on thinking that we need more discussions because there are different points of view.
Even if we are all talking about the same issue, that it's seeds, but what we realize that we are really different. We have really different farming system behind. What kind of seed laws we would like to have in the future, just to give an example. It's not so easy to answer to this question, but what is really important is that we can continue to share experiences from the ground in different countries.
And so the next steps, I think, is that different people from the European Community Exchange to decide on who they wish to work on those pathways with, and to start to really put into place different actions to make those pathways a reality.
That would, for me, would be the overall map of what we're going to try to do over the next couple of months, and that is to ask and reach out to all of you, to ask you about the pathways that you're on, to ask you to contribute to a vision of seed diversity and seed access which we can share, and think that is a common goal.
Seeds are our future. They're what make us human, and they're part of our past. If we are going to save ourselves as a human species, we really need to think about saving our seeds, about diversity of seeds, and about access to seeds. This past 4.5 days was incredible, bringing over 30 people from countries all across Europe who were all working on this theme of seeds and seed diversity and seed protection. So it was an incredibly invaluable experience, and I hope to really continue it.